It all starts with a choice. A single decision, often made without fully understanding the consequences, can alter the course of a life forever. It can lead down unexpected paths, some filled with promise, others fraught with peril. For José Salvador Alvarenga, a man who knew the sea like the back of his hand, that choice was to head out to sea, a decision driven by the fundamental need to provide for his family, to ensure their well-being and security. It was a choice made with the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He was a seasoned fisherman from the coastal community of Chiapas, Mexico, a place where the rhythm of life was dictated by the ebb and flow of the ocean. He was used to the inherent risks of the Pacific, its unpredictable nature and its capacity for both breathtaking beauty and terrifying power. He respected the ocean, but he wasn't afraid of it. On November 17, 2012, a day that would forever be etched in his memory, it was supposed to be just another routine 30-hour fishing trip, a quick venture out to the fishing grounds and back. Nothing out of the ordinary was expected. Accompanying Alvarenga on this trip was Ezequiel Cordoba, a young, inexperienced fill-in, eager to learn the trade but lacking the years of experience that Alvarenga possessed. He was an apprentice, a novice venturing into the world of professional fishing. Their boat was small, open-topped, a typical fishing vessel for the region, equipped with a single outboard motor to propel them through the water and a large icebox to preserve their catch. These were the essential tools of their trade. They packed light, water, tortillas for sustenance, and the necessary fishing gear to haul in their catch. Crucially, no GPS device for navigation and no emergency beacon to signal for help in case of trouble. This lack of equipment would prove to be a critical factor in the days to come. They relied on their accumulated skill and experience, honed over years of working the sea, rather than modern technology. It was an old-school approach to a timeless profession. The morning dawned calm and clear, the sea surface a shimmering expanse of inviting, tranquil waters. It was a picture-perfect start to a day at sea. They motored out from the shore, their minds focused on the promise of a bountiful catch, the reward for their hard work and dedication. They were filled with the optimism that every fisherman carries with him as he sets out to sea. The ocean was a familiar presence, a constant in their lives, but it was also a force of nature, always unpredictable and potentially dangerous. But as the day wore on, the weather began to shift, subtly at first, then with increasing intensity. The sky darkened ominously, the wind howled with increasing ferocity, and the once gentle waves grew into menacing swells, churning with whitecaps. A storm was rapidly approaching, a sudden and unforecasted tempest that threatened to engulf them. Far from the safety of the shore, they were now completely exposed and utterly vulnerable to the elements. What began as a simple fishing trip, a routine day at sea, was about to transform into a desperate and harrowing fight for survival against the relentless power of the ocean. The ocean, so often a source of sustenance and livelihood, can turn on you in an instant, revealing its unforgiving nature. Every instinct screamed danger, a primal warning that surged through their veins as the storm relentlessly approached. They braced themselves against the impending onslaught, knowing deep down that they were about to be plunged into a fierce and desperate battle against the elements. Out here, in the vast expanse of the ocean, your best tools aren't the ones you carry in your hands, but your wits and your unwavering will to survive, the unyielding determination to overcome the odds, no matter how insurmountable they may seem. Little did they know, as they faced the storm head-on, that they were sailing directly into a nightmare, a harrowing ordeal beyond their wildest imaginations. The gamble had begun, a desperate wager against the unforgiving power of the sea, with their lives hanging in the balance. The storm descended upon them with a brutal, unrelenting force. It was a maelstrom of wind and water, a furious tempest that seemed determined to swallow them whole. The ocean, once a source of livelihood, had transformed into a raging beast. Relentless rain lashed down, each drop feeling like a tiny hammer blow. The wind, a howling demon, battered their small fishing vessel mercilessly, threatening to tear it apart plank by plank. The boat groaned and shuddered under the assault, a fragile toy in the face of nature's fury. Monstrous waves like liquid mountains towered above them, each one a potential death sentence. They rose up, blotting out the sky before crashing down with earth-shattering force. The fishermen felt insignificant, dwarfed by the immensity and power of the ocean. Alvarenga, his face grim with determination, fought desperately to keep the bow of the boat pointed into the waves, the only way to prevent it from capsizing. Every muscle in his body screamed in protest as he wrestled with the wheel, battling the relentless forces of the storm. But then, the unthinkable happened. The engine, their lifeline, sputtered and died, succumbing to the relentless strain. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the roar of the storm. Suddenly, they were adrift, no longer masters of their fate, but helpless pawns of the sea. The boat, once a vessel of purpose, became a drifting coffin, powerless, completely at the mercy of the vast, unforgiving Pacific Ocean. Their fate hung precariously in the balance, dependent on the whims of the wind and the currents. For 5 long, agonizing days the storm continued its relentless assault, showing no signs of abating. Each hour felt like an eternity, each wave a fresh threat. They bailed water with feverish intensity, desperately trying to keep the boat afloat. They dumped their precious catch overboard, sacrificing their livelihood in a desperate attempt to lighten the load. Exhausted and battered, they clung to the rails, clinging to each other, clinging to the last vestiges of hope that somehow they would survive this ordeal. Their fishing gear, their tools of survival were swept away by the relentless waves, leaving them even more vulnerable. The icebox, once a symbol of their potential bounty, became just another loose object to secure, a constant reminder of what they had lost. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the storm began to clear, the wind subsided, and the rain ceased. A fragile peace descended upon the ocean, but as the clouds parted, they saw only endless blue in every direction, a vast empty expanse of water stretching to the horizon. No land, no boats, no sign of civilization. Just the endless, mocking blue of the Pacific. Unbeknownst to them, the powerful current had carried them far, far away from the shores of Mexico, further into the heart of the Pacific. They were utterly and completely lost, adrift in a watery wilderness with no hope of rescue in sight. A tiny speck of humanity, swallowed by the immensity of the vast ocean, a testament to the power of nature and the fragility of human existence. The initial violent fight against the storm was finally over, leaving them battered, bruised, and emotionally drained. But a new, even more grueling battle had just begun, a battle against starvation, thirst, and the crushing weight of despair. Survival was no longer about enduring for a few hours or even a few days. It was now about endurance for the long haul, for weeks, perhaps even months, with no guarantee of rescue. The initial shock and adrenaline began to fade, replaced by a chilling sense of dread. The fleeting hope of a quick rescue was replaced by the cold, hard reality of their desperate situation. They were alone, lost, and facing a battle for survival unlike any they had ever imagined. They had nothing left but their wits, their resourcefulness, and their determination to survive against all odds. And perhaps most importantly, they had each other, a bond forged in the crucible of shared adversity. The Pacific Ocean had swallowed them whole, engulfing them in its vastness, isolating them from the rest of the world. Now, stripped bare of everything but their will to live, it was a test of pure, unadulterated survival, a battle against the elements and the limits of human endurance. The true ordeal, the unimaginable journey that lay ahead, was only just beginning. The first days adrift were a blur of fear and disbelief. Supplies gone, hunger and thirst set in fast. Alvarenga's experience told him they had to adapt or die. Cordoba struggled, refusing raw food, sinking into despair. Alvarenga tried to keep hope alive, knowing mindset was everything. The sun blistered by day, cold bit at night. They huddled under the overturned icebox for shelter. Their world shrank to the boat, a floating prison. Then, a sea turtle appeared. Alvarenga caught it barehanded. They drank its blood, ate its flesh. It was a turning point from victims to hunters. They found a way to survive, however brutal. Small victories mattered. Survival was possible, but only for those who could adapt. The ocean demanded everything. Only the strong-willed would endure. Survival in the vast expanse of the Pacific meant an unrelenting hunt for every single calorie. Every morsel, every drop of sustenance was a victory against the odds. The ocean, in its indifference, demanded constant vigilance and resourcefulness. Alvarenga, driven by the primal instinct to survive, used his bare hands to catch whatever he could. He became adept at spotting the subtle movements beneath the surface, the telltale signs of life that could stave off starvation for another day. Fish of all sizes, slow-moving turtles, even the occasional small sharks became targets. He had to overcome his fear and revulsion, driven by the gnawing hunger that never truly subsided. It was a constant gamble, a dance with danger where one misstep, one careless grab could be fatal. The sharks, though small, possessed teeth sharp enough to inflict serious wounds. They ate everything raw: turtles, birds, every part of the animal was consumed, offering precious protein and fat. Jellyfish, fish, nothing was off limits in his desperate quest for survival. Even the translucent, stinging jellyfish were cautiously consumed, a testament to his unwavering will to live. Sea turtles were especially prized, not only for their substantial meat, but also for their blood, which provided vital fluids and nutrients. Alvarenga, with incredible patience and agility, snatched seabirds that landed on the boat, seeking a brief respite from their endless flight. He devoured them, feathers and all, extracting every last bit of nourishment from their small bodies. Over time, he inadvertently turned the boat into a mobile ecosystem, attracting barnacles to its hull, which in turn drew in small fish seeking shelter and food. He learned to read the subtle signs of the ocean, understanding its rhythms and patterns, becoming a primal hunter, a creature of instinct and adaptation. But Cordoba, weakened by the ordeal, couldn't adapt to this brutal diet. The constant consumption of raw food made him increasingly sick. The situation worsened dramatically after he ate a poisoned bird, its flesh tainted with toxins. Cordoba's already fragile health rapidly deteriorated, his body unable to fight off the effects of the poison. After 4 long, agonizing months adrift, Cordoba succumbed to his illness and died, leaving Alvarenga utterly alone. In his grief and denial, Alvarenga kept his friend's body on the boat for days, unable to accept the devastating loss of his only companion. The psychological blow was immense, shattering his spirit and testing the limits of his sanity. Now, Alvarenga was truly alone, adrift in a seemingly endless ocean with no one to share his burden. He had to hunt, eat, and survive, completely alone, carrying the weight of his friend's death and the crushing isolation of his situation. The ocean, in its capricious nature, was both his provider and his tormentor, offering sustenance while simultaneously threatening to swallow him whole. Every day became an even more desperate fight for life, a battle against starvation, dehydration, and the relentless elements. Adaptation was no longer just a skill, it was everything, the key to unlocking another day of survival. The cost of failure was not just discomfort or hardship, it was the ultimate price: death, a watery grave in the vast and unforgiving Pacific. Despite the overwhelming odds and the crushing weight of his loss, Alvarenga pressed on, driven by an indomitable will to survive. Fresh water was the most precious resource. Rain became Alvarenga's lifeline. He collected every drop in bottles, turtle shells, anything he could find. Between rains, thirst was agony. He drank turtle blood and, in desperation, his own urine. The sun was relentless, draining his body's moisture. He learned to stay still during the heat, hiding under the icebox. He licked dew from the boat at dawn. Every drop counted. His mood rose and fell with the clouds. Water collection became a sacred ritual. In the wild, water is everything. For Alvarenga, the sky was his only hope. 438 days adrift is a war of the mind. After Cordoba's death, Alvarenga was utterly alone. He created routines, talked to himself, sang, prayed. He tracked time by the moon, scratched days into the boat. Sunrises and sunsets became moments of peace. He fought despair, even contemplated suicide. The thought of his daughter kept him going. He imagined reuniting with family, his anchor in darkness. Mental fortitude was his greatest tool. He learned to live in the moment, find food, find water, survive one more day. The ocean became both prison and provider. Acceptance and resilience defined his survival. He adapted his mind as much as his body. The Pacific teemed with life and danger. Sharks circled, sometimes ramming the boat. Alvarenga was always vigilant, knowing he was part of the food chain. The sun burned by day, cold bit by night. His skin became scarred and leathery. Illness and injury were constant threats. Infection could be fatal. He suffered pain from his harsh diet and dehydration. Every movement had to be careful. One mistake could be deadly. The monotony was crushing. Passing ships offered hope, but none saw him. Each missed rescue was a blow, but he never gave up. The ocean tested him relentlessly. He endured. After more than a year, hope returned. Alvarenga spotted a land bird, then coconuts and driftwood. He knew land was near. Using a makeshift rudder, he paddled toward salvation. At dawn, he saw an island, Ibn Atoll, Marshall Islands. Overwhelmed, he wept. He crawled ashore, kissing the ground. Emaciated and wild, he was a ghost from the sea. Locals found him, gave him water and food, and called for help. He had drifted 6,700 miles across the Pacific. News of his survival spread worldwide. 438 days lost at sea, found alive. His ordeal was over. The impossible had happened. The ocean had finally released him. His journey was a testament to human endurance. The long voyage had ended. Alvarenga's rescue marked the end of his ordeal, but a new journey began. Weak and malnourished, he was taken to Majuro for care. Doctors called his survival a miracle. The world was captivated by his story. His survival was built on hope, adaptability, and discipline. He hunted, collected rainwater, and used every resource. He became part of the ocean's ecosystem. His discipline with food and water kept him alive. Alvarenga's journey redefined the limits of human endurance. His story is a testament to resilience and the will to live. Against all odds, he survived.